Hello and good morning, everybody. Wait, is our chat working? Say hi. Somebody say
Hello,
hi.
hello.
Usually there's lots of people saying hello. Is it
Oh,
because
you
it's
mean
a
the chat.
Thursday? It's a Thursday. Mine works.
Well,
It's a Thursday, not a Friday. Don't adjust your calendars. I know y'all are racing right now to go look, but our next two guests are so amazing. Hey, there's Jack. Our next two guests are so amazing that I moved the whole day to make it work. I was like, no, we can make this happen on a Thursday. I will absolutely make this happen. So hi, if you're new here, my name is Rachel Arnold. I am the Human API with SecureNation. You can go to the QR code at the top that leads to our LinkedIn page. Please go ahead and follow, and that way you will be in the know whenever the next coffee table talk comes out, because we do these every week, usually on Fridays. Today is Thursday. Again, don't check. My co-host, as always, that guy. Will McCullen, the program manager for the IT Center for Excellence at PIMA Community College in Tucson, Arizona. Excellent. There we go.
Well done. Now can you do it 10 times real fast?
Absolutely not. And I'm not going to try. That's horrible. Why you do these things to me? It's not nice. This is just not nice. Hey, Britt, we see you there in the chat. Our guests today are Dr. Joseph and Alfredzo, and I don't know how I found you two. I have no idea, but I saw the cyber coffee hour. Hang on. I have a QR code for that too. You guys, Meg is sick today. Somebody tell her to feel better.
Feel better, Meg.
So normally I have her cyber coffee hour. I don't know if the algorithm worked and was like, you're going to love this, Rachel, because it was right. Okay.
The metaverse aligned.
It did. It was like coffee table talks about cybersecurity and a cyber coffee hour. You guys should be friends. And I was like, yes, universe, we should. So that's how they got here. Because then I got to meet with Dr. Joseph. I couldn't even find, I think it was a post of yours, actually, Dr. Joseph. And then we get to meet Alfredzo. I was like, yay, all the friends. So I'll call it a Friday. What did he say? My logo's too big. I'll call it a Friday and not work tomorrow. Jack, I don't recommend it.
Thursday's the new Friday. I like that. I like Jack is recommending.
I don't know how Jack's leaders would feel about that, so I can't make any recommendations. But here we are. Without further ado, Dr. Joseph, how did you get into cybersecurity? How did you become Dr. Joseph? That's what I want to know. That's really what I want to know. One of my favorite stories.
I mean, the short answer, of course, we
do have an hour to fill. You don't have to be short.
Okay. I could
we can go back 20 years.
Well, actually, that's exactly what I was gonna do.
You're going back.
I was gonna say, I mean, short answer: going to school, graduate, do a grueling dissertation, and now you're a doctor. But leading up to that, of course, it is all the work, just your own self-interest, when it comes to this field, because my doctor is in cybersecurity, and just going back, from my first exposure to, well, even back then it wasn't called cyber, with IT back then, through my uncle. Growing up in New York, my uncle at that time lived in New Jersey, would always visit quite often, and he was into he was doing like IT repair and things of that nature, and he would always have like monitors, printers, PCs all over the place, and I mean it was just a mess, but it was almost like Toys R Us for IT. So I was always amazed, and I was younger, and I'd ask him a ton of questions, which I'm glad he was able to have the patience to answer. But that's where I really got my first exposure to it, and just learning. And then I was able to take that, and I started tinkering with PCs, pulling them apart, and just learning the whole order of operations and how they work. And I was able to build on that. And as fast forward as time went on, I was able to use that in a professional sense when I first got into IT, working at the Department of Veterans Affairs in New Jersey. So my first IT position, and my first supervisor, who's also, I would say, another person that was very instrumental to me in my career, because he allowed me, which I don't think happens enough now today, is he allowed me to fail. Like he allowed me to experiment and take away things, and it allowed me to really learn and grow. And he was always encouraging me, always gave me words of encouragement. He always pushing me. And he made sure I didn't stay stuck in one area. Meaning, like, so if there was any big project coming up, he would call me and say, "Hey, I think you should do this." Even though I looked at it, I was like, I don't know, but I did it. But it benefited me, because even now, just fast forward now to today, I mean, I still keep up with him. I mean, he's done retired and moved to a whole different state now, but as I've moved on with my career, I've always kept up with him and just let him know how I progressed. And because I think even today, like, we don't have enough of that. Especially like for those who are trying to get into the practicum today, they're not getting that. That I think a lot of hiring managers, a lot of these organizations, they want that unicorn, that one that can just do all and everything. It's almost like everything is like a no-fail mission, and then I don't think that's completely fair. I mean, there has to be some sort of I'd say proving ground, a training ground, to allow someone to not feel if they messed up that their life is over, but to know that they can learn from it and be able to grow and mature. But unfortunately, I don't think it's like that anymore. You may have quite a few. I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but I think more often than not, they want those who come in, already with 5 year experience for an entry level position. Which probably be another whole conversation there. But summarily, but that's what really led up to it. I mean, just all the years of just working through and just going through my career, working within the government. I worked at the VA. I moved over to the Midwest. Worked at the Air Force as a civilian. Cybercrime
Wait,
Center.
you can do that? I didn't know you could do that.
You could yeah. You could do
Really?
federal service, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Learn something.
Or you could be a
day.
contractor for yourself.
I knew that. I knew that part. I didn't know that, like, I thought you had to be, like, I don't know. For some reason in my brain, you had to be enlisted or a contractor. Like, that was the only 2 options.
No, you have you have government, civilians, contractors, military, all working together in the same office.
Just not wearing a uniform. That's the only difference. A lot of times they may have the badge or they may have access, but they don't have to wear the uniform. They might wear business casual.
Yeah. Civilians, yeah. I mean, it's going to be, you're not wearing a uniform. Only one, of course, is the military that's working there, that are assigned or stationed at that office.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off there.
No, it's cool. But and I think that's great. I think that's great exposure, because, like, for me, for my military background, it still gave me a little taste of the military again, just working with the military folks, and but yeah, just so bounce around from there. I came back to the East Coast, worked at the DoD Cybercrime Center for about 2 years. Then moved on to DHS. About 5 years. I learned a lot there. Worked with a bit of biometrics, and then my last 2 years. Worked as a system project manager. Then after that, to where I am today, with the NSA. Been here now about a year and a half.
The feed's still working.
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
But currently my current role now, we're serving as a division chief for the NSA. So it's been a great journey. Had the privilege to just work with a lot of great talented people and be able to learn from them. So, like I said, just everything. It's all cumulative, up to this point, and I'd say I guess the doctorate is just a result of the years of work and experience and exposure that came before. So
very cool.
There's my long answer.
I like it. I like the long
Well
answer.
done.
Just so we know, too, by
Well
the way,
done.
I don't know. I'm not sure why, because I'm not going to troubleshoot right now, right? Like, I'm so interested in what we're actually talking about that there's so many chatty things happening on the LinkedIn that are not coming through on on our feed, which makes me a little sad. But just so you know, everybody is like commenting and saying hi. John Davis said something whenever you were commenting about that experience with your uncle, like having all the parts laying around. He said your first rattle was a computer part, likely. Right. Keith Stokes said we'll just call today Friday and blame it on John, which is my CEO, John Davis. One of my mentees is in here, Jacob Lewis. Hello, we see you, Jake. Garrett Grimmett says I was a network security degree program and it was downgraded from a bachelor degree to an AAS degree. This hurts because hiring managers won't even look at AAS degree holders. I wish more companies would look at folks like me, 20 years of sales and network degree. I thought would be killer tandem. Boy, was I wrong. Lol. Aw.
Who said that again?
That's Garrett Grimmett.
Let's connect on LinkedIn, Garrett.
There you go. Wait. I've got one of those too. Hold on. Let's see. There you go. Look, Garrett. That's how you find out. That's how you find Alfredo. Okay. And James A. Cross Jr. I work in a workspace with all the types, all the SCIF.
Skiff.
Oh, Skiff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I didn't want to.
We all want one of those on our Christmas list.
Yeah. All right, hang on. Let me write that.
Kind of party killers, but other than that.
Oh, man.
Put your phones inside the box.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Garrett says thank you. I don't know if we can see that, but yeah, Garrett says thank you to Alfredo for the connection. So, Alfredo, sorry to make you go second after that, right? I don't know.
It's all good. Lead all, So I'm not going to go as far back. Well, I will actually. So my interest kind of started in cyber when I was a younger individual. I actually watched one of my cousins that shall remain unnamed put together PS1 using a Casio CD player. So that's where it started, where this whole word tinkerer. I won't say hacker. You won't catch me say hacker, but this gentleman was a little older than my cousin, and he actually enrolled into a college in our area. It's called Monroe College, so I will shout them out. I was a little bummed out because I didn't make it into the Air Force. My first job was a security guard. One of our buddies that put us together saw me on the site, and he said, "Hey, man, you're a little too smart to be explicit word security guard. Why don't you go over here with your cousin and check out your college and do computer science?" Now, my dad was former Air Force. He said, "Well, I don't know anything about programming. Right? You might as well ask your cousin who's down in Harlem, and he could teach you how to program. But good luck, going to school." So I did. I went to Monroe College. I enrolled in a 2-year program, and I dual had it. I did security at night and went to school during the day to take on the security program. Computer science program. That program was liquidated into what we now know as IT. They called it information technology. It was really new. Much like Garrett said, that's why I want to connect with him, because I know what that's like. At the time, there was a school called ITT and Iona College that were competitive, and they had no other offerings except the school I went to for information technology. Fast forward, my first job was a help desk guy who found that job from a second life internship. Throughout that interview, nothing mattered on my resume because I didn't have much but physical security experience. The manager said, "Hey, tell me more about Second Life and how you programmed a couch in your internship." So that led to landing the job. I was, I think, like 19 at that time. And I went around the help desk looking at the different folks and individuals. And one was my help desk manager. There was a DBA, admin, network engineer, much like we said on the pre-show, system engineer, director, and then finally the help desk team and manager. So all around this kind of, think of it like a pod, like a circle. You had every specialty in the help desk that I had access.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a great way to walk into something,
So here it is, young guy. Yeah, the school founded. I backtracked. This was in Greenwich, Connecticut. So it was my first time actually going out to Connecticut for a job. And the first guy in the help desk that says, "Hey, shut up before I replace you with a bash script." No joke. He's one of my best friends now. Well, we grew apart, but his name was Dave. And he threw a stack of Red Hat 4 CDs at me. He said, "Look, I know you don't know Linux, but I want you to build out these 10 servers with Red Hat Linux and have them up by the end of the week." And then he threw a stack of Linux Journal magazines at me. So yeah, of course.
And we hate you. We love you and hate you.
Right. Good luck, sink or swim. We want you to build this back-end environment that we were. It was basically like a data warehouse back in the day, that was going to scale to production readiness and support our end user agreement. Now I'm saying that out of muscle memory, but it's almost 20 something years ago. That's where I got a taste for Linux besides running it in my living room. I had an old Ubuntu 704 box, and I told him this, and he was like, "Good luck, step your game up, build out this environment." And that was the first role I ever wanted to do because of that. It was
I love that you call it muscle memory, because I'm thinking, no, that was trauma that ingrained that on your brain.
It is. I didn't have time. I had to pay the bills. I had to get the skills to pay the bills. So I don't really. I still have issues acknowledging that Linux trauma.
All right.
But after that opportunity, unfortunately, so Dave and I stayed connected, but the team was downsized, and that led to me figuring out what a system admin was. So from help desk, desktop analyst, I did a job that time back in pre-recession time, so long ago. The next role was to become a sysadmin. And to Will's point on our pre-show, there was an alleged shortage pre-recession of Linux admins. Everyone was doing MCSEs, Cisco, different types of certifications. I said, "Well, tell me about the Red Hat cert." And I went for it, and I landed a junior sysadmin job out in Manhattan.
Rock on.
Yeah, so that was kind of like where I cut my teeth on building out a completely new environment, but we weren't aware that we were migrating users from the Windows environment because there was going to be a downturn of this office that I worked in. And so we migrated the environment. We did an open audit, which is a cool tool that's still out there, to scan the environment, collect all the user machines, all the credentials, and then post it onto a new Red Hat 5 server backend. So we built that all out. It was pretty cool. And then as soon as we started getting people into the open LDAP directory, they started telling me to shut down accounts. And I laugh because you're right. It is pretty much during that time. I was still pretty new, and it was like height of the recession. But I started to cut my teeth on what downsizing looked like, what it looked like both formally and technologically as a sysadmin. Then I took an opportunity as a contractor, first contract job ever at Bloomberg down in the city. So Bloomberg was doing a rollout of AIX systems, IBM P5 big iron systems, and they were moving that to their early cloud environment. So that was a LAN engineer. And then from there, I got the big exposure to what we called a man trap or SOC knock environment. Literally 2 doors, close in the front and back of you. You badge in, and then they tell you what systems you could have access to. And then you go into the data center and start racking and stacking. So that's when I got the reality check that there's physical security in the technical space, right? And it's real. It's like, don't touch these systems, you will go to jail.
When I was looking down your history, like your work history, I was like, how funny. Security guard, and then immediately into I was like,
those two connected. They lined up because so that's when I met a cool dude named Kareem. He cross-trained me. He was my real buddy because he was telling me what trouble tickets were, like tickets and power ticket runs, like systems that couldn't be accessed physically because they could lead to, legal action. Let's just say that. And then the second side was decommissioning Solaris and AIX systems. So that's where I really understood that before Linux, there were these Unix big box systems that people were like cutting their teeth on, and now Linux guys were cleaning them up. And then unfortunately, the recession happened, and I had a little bit of burnout, and I left that job for my opportunity in the Apple Store, Stanford. Right. Yeah. So shout out to R202. They're still around there in Norwalk right now. That's probably the best team I worked with ever, because it was all the folks from all different walks, like Cablevision, Time Warner, Best Buy, or other
they
stores.
All ended up at the Apple Store.
They all wound up in the Apple Store. And Dave, to this day, I'll never forget the first system admin said, "You better not become an Oompa Loompa." And what happens? I became an Apple Store employee. No shouts. It's just a joke. It's an inside joke, but I never forgot it because of that, because that was the only job that was hiring and actually cut my teeth finally on an Apple environment outside the help desk. I got a taste for that. And then I started backing up the store's equipment because I wanted to be on what's called a new store open team. This was the teams that come in, they drop in like Apple special ops. They set up the phones, they set up the cameras, they set up the whole launch. But what they were corporate employees. So I watched them and said, hey, how do I get on that team? And I actually backed up one of the phone switches in the store when it went down. And I'm living this as I'm going through this on the fly, because you're right, I'm unpacking a little bit of trauma because no one wanted to touch this phone system except me. So I backed it up, took up a config, talked to AT&T on the phone, and a gentleman named Genevieve said, hey, man, you're pretty good at that. Where'd you learn it? Well, I learned it from working at different environments in the network fabric and the data center. I'm about to take a coffee break. What do you want to tell me? He says, you should go and apply to this startup called Datto. Shout out to Datto. That's where I realized that security was real. That was the first official job. Again, I had to take a little bit of a bump as a tech support rep, but I was really managing their environment as a tech team lead. And any escalation that came off of their support floor or cloud operations floor were security and disaster in nature. Somebody was down, somebody had backups. We ran into crypto locker situations. So we're getting hammered from all these different situations that they supported as an MSP. After a little bit of time, I got to a QA role. And I learned that you can test security at the same time that you're developing a code base on their appliance. And that's why I took the nosedive into cybersecurity. I went to Utica University a little bit after that, after landing a contract with Air Gap Solution in Connecticut, because unfortunately I was let go from Datto. I'll just be real. I was terminated for asking for more money. And then I went to become a full contractor with a DoD-enabled air gap solution called OWL. They were also out of Connecticut. They taught me what the difference between what we do in IT and what we do in high secure environments and how we separate critical infrastructure. That, unfortunately, when my dad passed away, I left that opportunity and pursued Utica College full time. I got a 3-way split master's degree between cyber operations, cyber threat intel, and malware analysis. And because of that accreditation with DHS and NSA, they sent me to an employer down in Richmond, big bank by the name of Capital One. And I started the process over and started migrating their fabric into the early adaptation of their Amazon environment. That went well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no! What I could relate to the Capital One. Well, third party relation, not really my own personal relation, but
yeah.
One of my mentors, Dan Hay, worked for Capital One for like 7 years. And I immediately, when I saw it on your work history, I went to go compare the years. It's not, he was there before you. He was there like 7 years before you. But anyway, sorry. So you probably.
It's all good. I was intentionally brought down there as a migration effort of theirs. I would say they kind of poached me pretty aggressively to migrate the last steps of their on-premise data centers to a new system environment for basically like bank transfer, money movement, the things that they primarily do as an enterprise bank. And then unfortunately, as the internet could tell, we had an incident that led to me making a decision to join their cyber team. So while folks were running out, I met a cool dude named Ross Young at RVA Check. And he started, and I was honestly hiding my badge and trying to lay low on my own time. And he actually picked me out of the crowd and said, hey, I think I know you, what is it that you're struggling? And at the time I was also on a coaching plan for different reasons. And I said, hey, I'm thinking about changing teams. I don't know, which direction I want to go, but I do know I want to wind up in cyber. And he was at the time he was a deputy ISO, I think, and he literally poached me out of my line of business and brought me in as the first offensive security ISO for the organization, for the whole organization, that is.
Yeah, very cool. I was going to ask you, I was like, I saw that you were a developer, and then suddenly, so I'm glad we got
that was Ross, so you can blame Ross for that. Shout out to Ross. He was like charismatic about it. I went to the conference on my own. And my manager kind of approved that I was on vacation. And then I came back to what was an incident. And he said, hey, we might need you to work on our security stack. And I said, hey, you know what? Unfortunately, I think I want to pursue being on the cyber team. And Ross negotiated the means talked to all the directors, helped coach me up as far as moving from a non-cyber element division to a cybersecurity division. And that's where I cut my teeth on offensive security, being the ISO for the guys that will wake up in the morning and show you how to rob the bank. 300 pen test engagements later, I left, and I'm now what I'm doing full time after also multiple job loss still. I'm running the cyber coffee hour full time. So Stash was a second opportunity. It was pretty good. I helped them run their FINRA compliance and early security operations there. Unfortunately, another layoff. And then I landed on a pretty good federal contractor, migrating a pretty good environment for a DHS. That's how Joseph and I were linked up through a buddy. And then unfortunately, they lost spending. So now I'm out here running our podcast full time.
Very cool. Yeah, I was gonna ask you how. Like, I'm glad you mentioned it. It's like, okay, so because I did my little bit of OSINT there, and I was like, or were they in similar organizations? Were they meeting up in like cyber community events? Like,
no, it's more cloak and dagger than that. One of our mutual best friends said, "How do you do the same thing and never talk to each other?" And he referred us together. He said, "Hey, I remember going to high school with you. Your buddy, Dr. Joseph." He said Joseph, but I said, "Hey, what is he doing? How is he about to become a doctor? He's doing a dissertation. You should link up with him." He texts me. He says, "Hey, I think I'd even work in the same field." Nah, there's no way. Where does he live? Virginia. I live in Virginia too. So we're in Virginia. He's about an hour away. Oh yeah, I'm gonna text him. Let's get this happening. Let's defend this dissertation and go to work.
So how did that go, Dr. Joseph? The first time you and Alfredo met?
Yeah. Well, that was the first time in a while. I mean, we went to high school together. Yeah. So, and it wasn't anything of like animosity or beef or anything. It was just, after high school graduation, I think it's just that natural drift, everyone kind of going a different way. So when our mutual friend, as I mentioned, as Alfredo mentioned, that at that point in time, I was conducting interviews for my dissertation, and our mutual friend let us know, he pretty much was the matchmaker. He played the role of matchmaker in this scenario.
Yeah, he did.
And so once he paired me up, I said, give him my number, because once he told me that Alfredo was working the same field, and essentially my neighbor, we live in the same state. So and again, I had no idea. We both had no idea. We didn't know what we were doing at that point in our lives. Nope. So when we connected, so I was doing a qualitative study. So I had a couple rounds of interviews, and just from the interviews, I was like, man, this was really good. So it's like, so I tossed the idea, say, hey, like, we should try to like formalize this somehow, and so I talked about doing a podcast, and he was, our friends agreed, and I was like, all right, cool.
Wait, the idea from the podcast came from you enjoyed the experience of doing the interviews for your dissertation, is the
Correct,
idea. Okay.
yes.
So wait, what was the dissertation on?
Oh yeah, here's that. Look at her doing the OSINT.
Yeah.
You want me to take that, or you got it?
If you want to take it, go ahead.
So we were interviewing about the electrical grid security and critical infrastructure.
Okay.
Right. So given my experience in air gaps in different environments, I spoke up and said, hey, we have to step our game up in securing these environments before it's too late. And so that led to my early thesis was, I was doing it at school as well. I was at Utica doing a thesis in cyber threat intelligence platforms.
Right.
And so I just put the two together in our interview and said, hey, this is amazing too. Like, is anyone talking about this? Right. Not so much just the high security environment, but just the configuration and interviewing of folks inside and outside the environment. Even to your point, third-party providers, right? Utility workers, things like that came up in the interview. And we said, I don't even think people in cyber are talking about it. What about the people they're servicing? And so we put the two together, said we could do the cyber folks, us, and over a cup of coffee, obviously, right? And then the folks outside of cyber that are interested in how we secure them. and if it's a priority to them. So that came up in the interview as well, and we put it together. We kind of put it together across different sectors.
Very cool. Sorry. Okay, continue. Anyway, then the podcast. So then you were like, yeah, podcast. We're gonna do
podcast, and we agreed on it had to be ran as a business first. So we had to start a formalized business process. We didn't know what we were doing. We just kind of said, hey, let's just go out there and register it and then start from there.
Very cool. Y'all are way more formatted than me. You want to know how I started it? I was like, what does this button on YouTube Live do?
So credit to Dr. Joseph too. I was, we kind of balanced each other. I was nervous. I never, this is probably the first speaking engagement I've done in 7 or 8 years. So it took us 2 years to get past that social anxiety, like you hear us say on one of our episodes, and actually landed. So it took us about 2 years. We were in 2 years in this process of developing. We didn't even have an intake form. We didn't have a guest list. We didn't have any, folks that we wanted to talk to predetermined. We built the plane while flying in it pretty much.
Good job. Good job. So how do you find your guests? I'm interested. I'm going to tell you. You want to know how I find mine?
We hope they find us.
You got to tell me how you do yours before I tell you how I do mine.
Nah, that's not it.
So Dr. Joseph, if you look over the experience you had meeting me with me, you, and Meg, and then during that call, how that went, and then how we ended up here, that's my process.
Oh, so it's very same. You did OSINT on LinkedIn, it sounds like.
I did. So right with here, look, good opportunity. If I had my moderator, there we go. So what I do with SecureNation, right? I am technically adjacent. I am support for the cybersecurity community whenever it comes to their vendor relationships, which means that I get to, on a daily basis, talk to buttloads of people that might need help with their current vendors in place. They may need to find a new vendor solution or professional service to augment what is already there, right? They need resources. They're come to talk to me for resources. That's what they need. And I go, great. What's your budget? What's your timeline? Let's get it done. I am a glorified on steroids project manager when it comes to vendor relationships that also makes sure that I meet all your compliances by doing things like, I don't know, having an NDA in place. For those who don't know what an NDA is, you should always have one before you talk about anything pertaining to your infrastructure or internal anything with a third party. Okay, moving on. So I talked to lots of people about their resources. I also talked to a buttload of people about their services or their solutions that they provide and get to learn lots of it. I am neurospicy. I retain all of this information all of the time. Sometimes there's a processing glitch and you'll see it when I pause too long in a sentence or I can't seem to find the right word. It's a thing. I'm medicated. It's fine. Anyway, so what was happening was over these conversations, right, there will be trigger words that come up and different people will inspire me. We'll call it inspiration. Will inspire me to bring up something else that's relatable, right? You said Capital One. I said mentor Dan Hay worked there for 7 years, but it was before you. Okay, right? As an example. So I started connecting all of these people together. And then somebody went, you're like a human API. And I went, yes.
API gateway.
Yes. So then COVID, and I was having all of these great conversations with people that had because not everybody needs resources. Sometimes they're just like, great, if I need a resource, then I know who Rachel is. That's cool, right? And it would be those kind of conversations, lighter, off the cuff, storytelling. One of these people, his name is Rich Owen, and Rich Owen said, I started my career in Vietnam. And I said, Rich, I'm not calling you a liar, but I don't understand how cybersecurity came about in Vietnam. And
whoa.
Said, right?
Whoa, we got to talk about that.
Right.
Pick up the Phoenix Project. Pick up, there's a lot of infrastructure they set up during that time.
I was going to say, shh, don't say it all. They'll come by my house. I got little kids. Okay. Okay, so Rich told me some things that I'm not allowed to say. And then he told me a lot of things that I was allowed to say. And I went, this is so cool. Can we do this? I want to do a live thing. It's COVID. Nobody's talking to anybody. Everybody's very isolated. and you see all these horrible webinars with slide decks, and nobody is having a real conversation. Can we have a conversation about this? I've never done this before. Will you test this out with me? And he went, sure. And I found the go live button on YouTube Live. I think I was screen capturing an actual like WebEx that we were having at that time. Like I wasn't actually streaming from the platform, right? I couldn't figure all that out. Anyway, figured it out, got it going. The third episode, I had met Will because I was like, I wonder how many other guests I can find. I bet there's other people out here with really cool stories. Did a lot of reading, a lot of researching, found Will, got a couple of a lot of my other first episodes are a lot of my personal mentors and friends that are on there, but it just all happens very organically. There is no form or format. I am in awe of what you two do. Absolutely. I even told Dr. Joseph, I was like, you edit stuff? That is awesome. Like just that. Like that is
so, there's no shock and awe. Go ahead, you got it. Sorry.
Yeah. I was gonna say I would have to attribute it to because this isn't my, I guess, first experience when it comes to, I guess, maybe publications or video publications. So I had a project going a couple of years back. It was called Read to Lead. It's actually still on YouTube. You could find it. It's Read to Lead USA, because there were like a ton of other Read to Leads, but that was pretty much a family affair. So myself, at the time, she was my girlfriend then, but my wife now. Cousins, even my kids, my two sons. And what it was that we focused on literacy for young children, and so the point was we'd have to really capture the attention of kids, because of course they were on tablets and things of that nature, but to actually have them doing something that's actually educational and it's a little bit more thought provoking than watching I guess a random foolishness on YouTube. But so what we did was, I started out with just reading just regular books, like kids books, and just going through it. My cousin, who's into audio video, he specialized in AV. He did editing, editing, work, and everything like that. And also as we went on, we incorporated more kids actually reading the books, because I think it's really special when kids see someone that looks like them, kind of relates to them, doing it, reading a book.
Do your kids watch those, or had they? Somebody's got an airplane.
Yeah, that's me.
I was like, either you're real hungry or there's an airplane outside.
Or both.
We're both. My kids will watch other kids play with toys for hours. So you're like, your little thought bubble there is, that's genius. Good job. Anyway.
Well, no, so even with that, the whole production, we did a lot of work, like even like scanning the books, because we wanted to, and again, we learned as we went on. And so we thought about, so what if the parent doesn't have that book we're reading on screen? So then we started working as far as like actually scanning the books that we're reading, and that way it shows up on the screen. We did like a picture in picture, so whether if it's myself or we have any of the kids that are reading, they'll show up on the screen, and like a little overlay, so you're not missing anything. And we just really just have fun. It was something I really enjoyed, but we kind of stopped with pretty much as we got to the pandemic. That's when when things shut down, we pretty much stopped. But it's actually one of my favorite projects. But again, just the work that went into that, there has to be a certain structure, especially when you work with a lot of different people. There's a lot of different components, a lot of moving parts that have to come together. So I guess learning from that and kind of applying that to here now with the Cyber Coffee Hour, there is a structure. There has to be, because there is a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that are happening that have to make sure we're right, that go right. And Fredza could attest to this. Even when we got started, I will say, like, when we got started, I think I'll say for myself, I was afraid to get started because like, man, do we have all our ducks in a row? Do we have everything ready to go? And I think that kind of paralyzed us a bit. I think we should have just started, and then you just kind of work yourself. You know, you just make improvements as you go on. You learn. I mean, if you look at our first episode that's on YouTube now to where we are, you know, our first episode back then to where we are now, completely different. And that's just because we just learned as we went on. We made improvements. We changed the format. We took feedback from our guests, listeners, what they like best, what they didn't like. You know, you can't take anything personal. You just had to take it as, okay, this is what people like, what they don't like. You have to incorporate that, because if you're just going to be stubborn about it, you're not going to grow. So like I said, you can't take it personal. Just take it as feedback, take it as a way for you to grow and get better. Just listen what people like, don't like. So from there, so with that said, we're able to improve and just incorporate different elements into it, see how we can, you know, expanding our reach, using different outlets and things of that nature. Having an open mind to different things, different ventures. And I think as we continue to learn and grow, and you know, as we move forward, those are the things that we try to, like I said, to incorporate and encapsulate. You know, you have to recognize what's important, what's going to be the basis for your success. Is you have to understand, like, just you have to do your research, you know. Definitely our friends can definitely test to that. Doing market research, you know, see what's out there. What are, you know, what are things that are being talked about? What are some of the things that are lacking? Some things you look at and be like, oh man, I wish I did that a little better. You know, take notes and see how we can incorporate that. I mean, it's a lot of work. I mean, I think for the main thing is that you really have to take pride in what you do, and you know, like, look how you could continue to improve and get better. And also too, it's not just, you're not just doing it for yourself, but also for your audience that's listening. You're putting out a better quality product, and that's the mentality you have to have. You know, I think maybe it starts out maybe as like a little hobby, but then as you get better and improve, okay, like, all right, we got to step it up, you know what I'm saying? Because now it's a real thing, you know? Yeah. So you can't do the same thing you did before. You have to improve. You have to continually see how you can get better. You have to expand your network. You have to talk to those, like I said, feedback, learn from others, you know, get that genuine feedback from folks. And hey, like, tell me, was it good or did it suck? Like, tell me.
Well, here's one of the things that I've noticed just from guys talking. I mean, both of you, first of all, have an incredible sense of integrity, right? You care. You genuinely care. And throughout what you've talked about from your background, your lives, it's always about trying to improve yourself and those around you with that integrity, right? Mm-hmm. And so from looking at some of your shows too,
dust mites in him getting a little
yeah. Well, from watching your shows too, right? You're trying to make that difference. So as you go forward with this, right? Because you're not doing this just for, oh gosh, this is fun. You're trying to make a difference. So where do you see some of this program going, and what would you like to see come out of that and the message that you're trying to get across to the world?
So I'll take that one, just piggybacking off of what Dr. Joseph said. We had a huge fear and analysis paralysis. Like, we got to get this right out the gate, right? We have to get the stories out. We have to take the feedback from guests, like you said. But more importantly, we don't want anybody to hinder the message that we're getting out about our lives. Two professionals from Mount Vernon, New York. We grew up in the same route. We went to the same high school. We deviated. I mean, I didn't get to join the Air Force. So that was my first test at failure. I thought
it makes me want to know what's in the water in Mount Vernon. Is that where all this
the good stuff? That's where the good coffee was at.
Right?
money earning,
money earning. Yeah, shout out. We leaving here with something. Shout out to there's I don't know. I think there's a resilience. I carried a piece of Mount Vernon with me everywhere I went. So that's literal. Like, my cousin could attest to that. Just like, family has always been the root of, hey, you're the pioneer, you're the builder. You got to go out there and scout it out for us. right? And there's no one that in my family that can't say I didn't do that, or my friends. Like, I remember all of my friends from 20-something years ago, the ones I loved and hated, the ones that hate me and love me, vice versa. But more importantly, I felt like I was on a mission. To Dr. Joseph's point, the mission was we can't get stuck in this analysis paralysis because we need to get the stories out. Right. So that was something we commonly agreed on. We need to get our story out. And then anybody that wants to join us in this sector or go out of sector and do something else, gardening, whatever, we had with the first guest was an innovator in the dental space, right? Dental and healthcare space. She schooled us to, hey, you guys have something. And that was live. So you can go back to the first episode. And we kind of missed the ball and didn't have the intake, didn't have the media team like she had, didn't have the exposure like she had. But she schooled us and said, look, stick with it. Right. So we got over that phobia from our 2 beta episodes to her episode and said, all right, we got a mission now. The second thing that I kind of heard Dr. Joseph said, it was the voice of the struggle. It's not everyone. We had a guest that gave us feedback and said, well, I had a friend that told us it was easy to get in cybersecurity. Absolutely not. I mean, for my first part of my career, I was homeless. Right. And I still stuck to it. I got into cyber. I bumped the elbows. I told people you could stick to it just like I did. But more importantly, I had the idea of reaching back and say, well, if you can't get the Security Plus, I'll run the gauntlet with you. Or if you need some training online, I'll help you set up a Linux box. Right. And those are the stories we don't hear about, which Dr. Joseph and I agreed on, that gave us analysis paralysis. Like, who's not going to want to hear this? Who's going to say we suck? Right. Also, it was pretty boring hearing it from CISOs, right? Executives. They're not showing the grind that got to them where they were. And we agreed we need to cut that out. We need to start from the bottom up and work through the stories and tribulations that got us here. And more importantly, we said something that sticks to my mind. I've said most of my career. It's not just social and it's not just amateur. It's both inside of an hour.
Yep.
And we'll have coffee inside an hour, and we'll talk to the amateur folks. We'll talk to the socialites, the social butterflies like myself, and we'll talk to the professionals. All inside of an hour, we'll build that roadmap in our story, in our show run. And we didn't have a format. We changed the format 3 times. We were like, how do we get this sequence right where it lands? And we're trying to tell people from beginning, middle to end, this is what you do before you hear it from a CISO or before you hear it from a leader in industry that keeps saying the same story, right? Where I mean, again, I don't want to put this out here, but I heard it in the pre-show. Where I would hope we grow into is what we call an ISAO, right? So an ISAO where we share the stories in and out of sector, but then we also build systems better based on that information we shared. To Will's point, I haven't seen that in our sector, which is, again, you can see it in the name, but I also haven't seen that collaboration in the private side. So I bring the private sector experience. Right? Most of my career is bumping my elbows with these private companies that really don't have the strategy. Managed service providers save them, but what happens when they get hit? So we talked about that too. We're like, and eventually, if I envision 5, 10, because I'm going to stick to it, we will try to build into that ISAO role or consultant role, right? And then move from there once we get just as good as we are with the podcast.
Dr. Joseph, what are your thoughts on where you want to go? Added to that.
Right. First, just echo everything that Afrezo said. But yeah, I what I like to see for us to accomplish is to I'm sorry, Afrezo, you playing recorders or something?
Oh man, you heard that? I'm so sorry. Yeah. I was trying to move it. Sorry about that.
I was trying to push through it, but I was like,
my bad.
Yeah, I was trying to. I was just gonna be like,
I was actually trying to move it. I didn't. Sorry about that.
It wasn't.
You have a very good mic. Very good mic. See, we use high quality equipment on this type of coffee.
Yeah, thank you. That was on you. I appreciate it.
It's a nice mic.
I'd say like for me, like, and I'll even share maybe some of the things that I drew inspiration from. Try to incorporate into the Cyber Coffee Hour. So one example. So for me, I'm a big sports person, big sports guy. From New York, with big Knicks, Yankees, Giants fan. Even Rangers, do my hockey as well.
Yay, sports ball.
Yes. But so with that said, and still within the podcast industry, there's this one podcast called the Pivot podcast, and it's led by Ryan Clark, and I forget that it's three guys, three of them, all former NFL players. I just can't recall all their names right now, but basically it was a fairly new podcast, and I really like their journey, you know, from where they started to where they are now, because they're having guests, you know, from all different industries. So not just, you know, of course, with NFL, they're bringing like movie stars, those maybe baseball or Olympics, you know, those are just different backgrounds, and it's not just solely about the game they played last night. It's about actually their lives. They're talking about, you know, intimate things about their lives you just did not know about, what you would not find out about on ESPN. Like, these are real, like I said, sometimes even uncover some of the stories that have been put out, you know, that you find online or on TV, and you just learn about them, and it's just so captivating and intriguing. I was like, man, I love to have, you know, something like that where we could have like our own version of that, where it comes to, you know, but like more with cybersecurity focus, where we have folks who have that cyber background, but we're not just talking just about, you know, their cyber job, but we're actually learning a piece about them, you know, and just uncovering just different elements, because at the end of the day, we're still people. Let's just learn about one another, and, you know, just having that conversation, and just learn about different things. Like, you know, when we're talking about even like mental health, you know, those who may have gone through, you know, different struggles. When we talk about having different struggles, what are some of the biases that you had to encounter? What are some of the things you had to overcome? Maybe you had to overcome the loss of a loved one. Do you had to overcome, you know, like I said, you know, just arduous lifestyle, just different things. Like, and when it comes to even with the job, like gatekeeping, maybe racism, all different type of biases that maybe people encounter that are just not talked about specifically within cybersecurity podcasts. It's, as I first mentioned,
economics, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
they don't talk. You don't hear about that. It's like the social economics of it. Like, it's not cool to run the budget out on the cybersecurity program. Let's talk about it, right? There's a whole avenue of stuff that I love the community that we're in, but I just don't hear the nitty gritty. I wanted to hear the nitty gritty from folks in the podcasts, right? Like most of the stuff you hear about, you know, some of the, not even just the agreements, but like, what did you overcome to get into this field, and why do you do gardening on the side to not think about this field?
Well, that's some of the brilliance behind this, right? Because Dr. Joseph, I mean, when you come with a background where you're teaching kids how to read, you're trying to make a difference in your community. And Alfredo, when you are delving into trying to pull out the humanity behind the position, the humanity behind the business, so that you're letting folks know, and this is really a big thing for me, right? Because I'm a community college professor. So the whole concept is students that are just getting going, folks that are getting in this industry, need to know that it is not just a step automatic kind of thing. They need to hear the humanity behind it. They need to hear the hard work. They need to hear what, you know, having worked in custodial and then going in through K-12 library, that's my background, is, right? It's not just click and go.
Right.
More importantly, I think they need to know that somebody's going to run the gauntlet with them. So a lot of times, like I remember when Dr. Joseph and I connected, we always had the same theme of why we out here by ourselves. Like before, for 15 years, I always felt like I was by myself in this industry. And then I come and pair with my buddy here, and he says the same thing, right? And we were resilient. We were able to grow through the industry and survive. But we want to be the example for folks to say, hey, you can latch onto me when it gets difficult in this field. Come and ask me for advice. Come and ask me what certifications you need to do, which jobs you should apply to, how your resume should look in public and private. I'm still getting schooled that you had to have a whole separate federal resume. right. And that's pairing up with Dr. Joseph and his network. You know, shout out to Resumes by Neen. You know, she helped me with my resume, and it was like night and day. My private sector resume did not look like my public. And then now I can echo that to younger folks trying to get an industry too.
But also, one of the most important things that you're teaching is that you can't be passive. Oh, no. You have to go after your career, right?
Right.
You have to take part. You have to do. You can't just sit back. throw out resumes and go, I hope.
Yeah,
so.
no, you got to go
Exactly.
chase them down, babe.
The best
Right.
feedback I got in my career, it was from my previous manager. Shout out to Matt. He knows who he is. I'm not gonna say his last name. Was no one comes here with their own career roadmap like you do. Right. And that's echoed from early in my career to now, setting up my own organization with Dr. Joseph. I always had that like gamification of it, like a platform engineer. I need to bring the armor with me. I need to bring the big bag to carry stuff that can fall out. But more importantly, if I see somebody on the trail, I need to help them out. Right.
Yep.
That could be a side quest. That could be like, hey, let's go try hack me. Let's go to RVA sec. Let's go to B-sides. Let's go do the groundwork. So I could show you the industry more than I could tell you about it. Right. I could show you what we're doing out here to be successful and grow. No one is growing, right? But also learn while we're doing it at these conferences or our road shows, right? So that's another thing I have in the back of my head is like, we might hit the road soon. That's what I know. But I want to bump into folks that have the same journey. And that's what we kind of agreed on. Like, we need to see and speak to this journey into cybersecurity and out of it. I mean, I'm not going to do this when I'm 80. I hope not. I hope that someone else could pick up the torch and take it from there, take it from where we reside,
Yeah. Thank you for what you're doing. Right. Because people in this industry need that desperately. Those life lessons, those humanity lessons, and the need to pull together.
I agree.
That's awesome.
We've almost run out of time, you guys.
Really? See, look how quickly time goes when you're having fun.
It does. It happens every time. I set an alarm because Meg's not here. Usually she's yelling at me like 3 minutes ago or something, going 5 minutes, Rachel. Miss you, Meg. I hope you feel better. Thank you guys for coming. Can we just do this more just every once in a while?
Why not? Let's do the reverse. Come on the Cyber Coffee Hour.
Oh, that would be fun.
I love that. I think we'd love that. Will, you want to be in the hot seat? You want to see what it feels like on the other side?
Oh, sure. I'd love it.
Nice. That's such a flip. Wow. I don't know. I always get real nervous when I'm in the hot seat.
Well, I think we can start sort of the Coffee Talk support, podcaster support arena.
That's it. We're gonna have a joint GoFundMe put up to support all of the guests and the hosts today for our coffee addictions.
Let's start the GoFundMe to attend Coffee Fest 2025.
Nice.
Let's go. Yeah, let's go.
That rocks.
We can go to New York. We could go to Arizona, wherever in between. Let's start the GoFundMe for that.
I like it. I'm excited. Are you guys going to be doing any traveling coming up? Are you going to be at any events, out and about, meeting people, shaking hands?
There's a bunch in our backlog. We actually have a formal backlog now. There's a bunch in it that we're doing the market research on that we didn't know when we started. But there's a few of them. So Coffee Fest is one of them. We hope to try to get there and work out the books there. There's also like a coffee expo. I didn't know about that last year. Kind of found out about it this year. Yeah. And a bunch of the cyber conferences, like we just said, B-sides, wherever it is. We're located in Maryland right now, obviously, but wherever there's a B-sides between our hometown and here, we try to attend to. And I'm actually pretty scared to go to Black Hat. So I've never been to Black Hat. I hope
neither have I.
Yeah, I hope to get there eventually, and I probably won't show up with my cell phone. Right, exactly. Same reason why I haven't been to reInvent. I've been trying to go to reInvent for 10 years. But yeah, those are the two technical ones on my list of the bigger conferences.
Very cool. Yeah, so I'm in Baton Rouge, but I'm closest to New Orleans when it comes to the conference scene. So we've got two that always happen in the spring. One is B-Sides New Orleans, and the other one is NOLA Con, and they're always like 2 weeks apart, right around Jazz Fest. So we do that every year, and then the big one that we go to is GurCon. That one's in Grand Rapids. We'll be at that one. It's at the end of September. I finally convinced Will to come last year for the first time, and now he's like, "That's it. I'm going every year. I'm so addicted to this."
And again, is GurCon?
GurCon. GRRCON. GurCon. That's the big one we go to. I want to go to Black Hat, but with the littles at home, it's summer camp. Hacker Summer Camp always is. So that's the B-Sides Las Vegas, GrrCon, or not GrrCon, B-Sides Las Vegas, Black Hat, and DEF CON are all like real close together. And that whole thing always happens right when I'm doing like back to school planning for my littles, or it actually is their first day back to school. And I'm like, this just isn't the season in my life for hanging out in Vegas in August. Right? Like it's just not happening. But anyway, so I was sad too, because I see all my friends posting stuff and all like, my industry pals, like Black Hat was great. And I'm like, I'm over here super jelly, very salty about it.
Same. I have some FOMO as well. Like I feel like I missed out on all the new cool stuff that came out, or new techniques.
Right. Usually a lot of times the conversations I have towards the end of August are how was Black Hat, DEF CON, or B-Sides Las Vegas? And tell me new things. Teach me. Oh, look, Rashid says Grand Rapids Conference GrrCon rocks. I don't know why the chat's not popping up all the time, but look, I'm telling you, the LinkedIn chat is like there's tons of people chitty chatting back and forth.
Well, public education, it's like development funds, pick one, right? So GrrCon.
It works out really well. Jamie and Chris Payne are phenomenal. They got you your tickets this year, didn't they, Will?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Helped tremendously. Thank you, folks. Thank you.
They're the best. I think they're sold out.
Dang.
For this year. You got to get them early. They go on sale in like February or March or something of every year.
They just recently released some tickets, but I don't know if those are gone now or not. Worth the check.
It is worth the check. It is worth the check. But somebody else was checking it out. I was talking to our old buddy Burt. You remember Burt? He's doing some new stuff. I was catching up with him yesterday, and he was checking out tickets, and he's like, they're sold out. And I thought they released more tickets, but it's still showing sold out. So I don't know. Somebody check that out. See if there's any.
I just checked. It's sold out. And I've never been to Michigan. I was looking for an excuse to go to Michigan. I've never been there. And it definitely sold out. I just checked.
Grand Rapids is a pretty.
I want you both to know that you have an open invitation at PIMA College. So if you're ever around in Tucson, come on by. We'll give you the red carpet.
Nice.
Sure.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So I've already told Will, but I'm going to tell the rest of the Coffee Table Talks audience. There's going to be a super fun guest for the GrrCon live show of the Coffee Table Talks that we're going to be doing live again in a similar fashion to last year. A little less squirrely, right? Because we're going to work out all the kinks. But we may have a very fabulous announcement to make, and I cannot wait. So for those who have been listening regularly for a long time, for 3 years or something, we've been doing this. I've always wanted to kind of gather up some sort of a scholarship fund or something for fundraising through the Coffee Table Talks. And there may be a very cool partnership coming down the pipe. There's some paperwork sitting in my email that's now sitting in my CEO's email that I'm like, can you look at this, please? I need you to look at it. So hopefully we'll be able to announce that in the end of September. I think that's all I've got. Will, what do you got? You got some closing words, buddy, so I can stop rambling like a nervous ninny?
Well, before we get the closing words from our guests, guys, what you're doing is tremendous. You're working to make a difference in your community. You're working to make a difference in your industry, and you care. All that is incredibly important. And hey, everybody, if you haven't checked it out, go check out their podcast.
It's so cool. Wait, let me get this. There it is. That's the thing.
So I like that. We might take that feedback too. I like how you did that.
What?
The QR code transition.
You like those? Isn't that nice?
That's kind of cool.
Aren't those nice? It's not. Look, I can flip through them so fast too. Just like it's great. Really awesome. It's my favorite thing ever.
Yeah, that is.
So somewhere there's somebody out there going.
Right.
I'm gonna have to put a warning about. I'm gonna have to put a warning on here that we may cause, involuntary seizures because I'm flashing through QR codes so quickly.
It's on YouTube, so you can pause YouTube and
you just triggered the signal in my brain too. We are actually ramping up for season 2. So we had a little break. We had to like transition. We are going to ramp up for season 2 and try to step our game up a little bit with the guests as well. But yeah, so you dial in, tune up, give us feedback, get in the comments too. We are trying to ramp up and get more different cadre of guests this time around as well. So
awesome.
Very cool. Awesome.
So any closing thoughts, Dr. Joseph?
Yeah.
Yep. First, definitely thank you for having us on your show. This was we had an amazing time. I definitely enjoyed myself here, and I appreciate you. I think there needs to be more of this when it comes to like collaboration and just be able to just work with one another as we really generally try to grow the cybersecurity industry. There has to be this, there has to be that group think and just sharing of ideas and thoughts and just how we can just make it better, but not just for ourselves, but those coming up behind us, for the future. And one thing I do want to share, and it's really a testament to the work that our friends and I have put in for Cyber Coffee Hour. We recently became a syndicated podcast through the Alive podcast network.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So our new leader, Miss Angel Leavas, she paid attention. She was like, "Hey, I need you guys on my network." And so we're officially on the other network. So we're really excited. It's going to make season 2 even that much more exciting. Definitely looking forward to it. And you're coming at a great time. So season 2 syndicated, let's rock.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Well done.
Thank you again. And thank you so much to our audience for grabbing a cup and circling up. We've taken an extra 8 minutes of your time. And I'm real sorry that we did that. But you know what? It was worth it. It was worth it. The extra 8 minutes. There was nothing else better you should have been doing than this right now. Anyway, we'll see you next week. We're going to have, who is our guest? Mariana Padilla with Hackerverse. We're going to learn all about all that. It's okay if you don't know. It's all right. Don't worry, because you're going to find out next week. That's how this works. And then you can ask questions.
Yep.
And we'll do that.
You got to tune in.
It is. I like to put a big fat easy button on it. And it's going to be on Friday, normal scheduled time. So look out for that. We'll have those links and everything posted over the weekend. And we'll see you guys next time. Y'all have a fantastic